Hello and welcome to the German New Medicine Stories podcast. Please note that nothing that I or any of my guests say here is or should be misinterpreted as medical information or advice. These are personal stories, not prescriptions. Okay, so today we have Emily Hanger on the podcast. You might know her Instagram page. And we start off with a hemorrhoids case that we actually kind of workshop live on the call, which is really fun. And then we get into some aura migraines. And then we get into a frozen shoulder case that was related to her online business and launches not going that well. And finally, a plantar warts situation. So lots of interesting stories. I hope you enjoy. Do you want to tell the hemorrhoid story?
Sure. Love to talk about my butt. So my understanding of hemorrhoids, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a part of the KCT program?
No, it's the identity conflict.
Identity conflict. Okay, that makes sense. So I call this like my hemorrhoids gingerbread story, because my daughter and I were at some of her buddies, that she went to preschool with. We were out at, one of their houses, and they had set up a whole little like gingerbread, space where we could all kind of construct these together. And so, beside us, there was a mom and her son. And then across from us, it was like another mom and her daughter. And while we're making these gingerbreads, Lily and I really have this like fun dynamic with each other. We joke and we play around a lot. And
And
so
that's your daughter, Lily.
yeah, Lily is my daughter. And so I'm watching the dynamics of these two mothers, like with their children, and the mother with the son, she's like, I'm going to tell you, yeah, anyway. So I'm just going to just describe it as it is without judgment. Um, she is really kind of like controlling of the situation. And so he gets really frustrated and gives up. And then she just like takes over and starts like, making the gingerbread house. And then the mother and the daughter across from us, her daughter is like really into it being perfect and is like starting to like have a meltdown and freak out because it's like not perfect. It's like falling apart. And so the mom kind of takes over, but then she starts like binging all of, all of the like candy. And then her mom's like yelling at her. And it's like really awkward and uncomfortable, like, for everybody. And so I literally have this thought that goes through my head of like, wow, we're not like them. You know what I mean? Like, are these really my people? And so we finished with the gingerbread houses and we're going to sit and just like have dinner and have conversation. And I was like, God, my butt hurts. I was like, I'm getting a little like uncomfortable. And, I had hemorrhoids before. So like, I know when it's my rectum, you know what I mean? Like, I know that sensation because I've
Mhm.
had it before. But when I'd had them in the past, I hadn't had the framework of, GNM. And so I didn't really think about it while I was there because I was trying to participate and have, conversation with these people. But, when I went home, I looked it up, and it was just one of those like moments where it really was an aha moment. And I was like, I really did have that thought of, do I belong? Who am
Mhm.
I? Like, are these my people? And
Mhm.
so the
And
hemorrhoids,
why do you think you had a resolution while you were there?
I think I didn't have the resolution until I got home that night, until I could
Okay.
like actually make, like look it up and like make the connection. But I mean, I did, I started to have like the resolution, and,
So
they were,
you had the symptoms when you got home.
I actually started to have the symptoms like after we had finished with the gingerbread houses and like when I was
Mm.
sitting around having conversation,
Mhm.
with these.
I wonder if it's like, because if you had the symptoms while you were there,
Mhm.
it's like then you should have been gone into healing there. Like I wonder if it was more like seeing these like quote unquote like shitty parents or whatever. The like that actually made you be like, oh, like I'm fine. Like I'm actually like doing a good job
Yeah.
of like being a mom.
I mean, that
Um,
that actually really makes sense to me because, Lily and I had this like dynamic where, we were doing it together. And at one point she was like, Mom, you're kind of in my way. Is it okay? Can I like just do this myself? And I was like, go for it, girl. Like, have at it. It was like respectful, but like we
Yeah.
kind of joke each other, because she's like, Ma, you're kind of in my way. So that actually is a piece that I hadn't.
Yeah, just because like because of the timing of the symptoms, so the
Mm,
hemorrhoid is going to come on like, within the minutes of a resolution with the identity conflict, which, is like I want to be perceived in a certain way. Like I want to be a certain ranking in the hierarchy. And it sounds like in that moment you were like, I'm the better mom. Like I'm clearly the better mom. So like I'm the high like, and I could totally see how that would
yeah.
resolve.
Well, that makes sense because I probably did start, now that I'm thinking about that timeline, I think I probably did start to have that sensation, but we were standing up at the time. And so I didn't really like notice it until after we were done and we were like sitting down. Oh, that makes
Mhm.
so much sense. Okay.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
makes,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think maybe I didn't make like the mental connection then until, yeah, I got home.
hmm
Okay.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just an example, like the specific timing is so like insightful, right? Because it would mean different things. Like if you got the symptom when you got home versus having the symptom whilst in the situation with the parents actually means the situation with the parents, as uncomfortable as it was
Yeah.
actually a resolution for you because it made you feel like I'm rocking this. you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, okay, do you want to tell about the visual migraines?
Okay. So my understanding, and I have a little bit of a specific flavor when I have my visual migraines. Um, my understanding is that it's either like frontal fear or it's like I can't see something, like I'm kind of looking for something and I can't see it or I can't figure it out, or like something's kind of coming at me and I can't figure it out or I can't see it. But I figured out for myself that there's also this level of feeling unprepared or feeling like I'm stupid.
Okay.
Um, because when I'm unprepared, when I'm stupid, like I can't see and I can't figure out, what's happening. So this was around this time last year, and it was one of those like really acute, like really specific aha GNM moments where I was donating my car and I was looking for the title. And I literally like couldn't find the title. And I had this feeling come up of like, oh my God, you're gonna come off looking like such a dummy because like you're trying to do this good thing by like donating your car to this person who really needs it, but you're gonna come off like being really childish and sort of like unprepared, because there was like a liaison in between, me donating this car to this person who needed it. And I didn't want to look um, I didn't want to look like a unprepared little childish dummy, in front of this person. And I was like, I think I know where it is. I think it's like, in the safe where I keep, kind of important documents. And like literally, as soon as I opened the safe and like sorted through some stuff and found it, I got, like a visual migraine. And so I was like, like one of those moments where I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited that I'm getting this like visual migraine because like the timeline was just so
So you
perfect.
find the thing and then you get the aura.
Like literally, I
Yeah.
like saw it, put my hand on it, and I was like, oh, I'm having a hard time seeing. Oh, there's like the visual aura. Yeah. Mhm.
Cool. That's
Yeah.
super fun.
It was super fun because I think there was a little part of me that was like, because I've had other visual migraines before. And, I think there was like that little skeptic in me that was like, is this real? Because I couldn't so clearly map it out but it was one of those really exciting moments where I was like, damn it, okay, this is real. Cannot,
Totally.
I can't deny it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The best.
fine. I know. Yeah.
Okay, what about the frozen shoulder?
hmm So this one's a little bit more of like kind of a, like a complicated or like complex one. Um, and so this is something that's been sort of going on for a longer amount of time. And so I just want to say to people, like if you do end up sharing this, that um, just because you don't have some of these like really clear aha resolutions doesn't mean that like it can't get to this like point of resolution. And I've learned so much from this being like an extended experience with, with the shoulder. Um, so it had started to kind of have like a little some symptoms last summer. But there was like a really acute situation that happened in August. I had, and I'll give you a little backstory. Like I was kind of struggling a little bit in my business because I'd had all this success, like teaching acupressure classes, and I think what I didn't realize is that I just needed to shift and change because who I was shifting and changing. And I was still trying to like push, like, I must teach these like acupressure classes because this is what's worked. And so my mental state was I'm feeling like a real big failure in my business.
Like trying to sell courses and not hitting the numbers that you had been hitting, kind of thing.
Totally. Like
Yeah.
having this like it's like having this like huge success, having
Yeah.
like 500 people like sign up for a class and then having like struggling to get like 15, to like sign
Yeah.
up. It's hard for the ego, So I was having some like real self-evaluation. But then in August, there was this like added, sort of like severe separation conflict because I do think that there was some periosteum stuff that was like going on as well. So I was having like
Because you were having nerve sort of tingling stuff going on.
and like pain and discomfort like all the way down, like my arm. Uh,
Hmm.
and so what happened in August was that I had this like launch, um, and then unbeknownst to me, I had gone over the amount of contacts like in my, like the
Course platform.
platform.
Yeah. So you had to pay more basically to host the emails.
Yes. And
Right.
so like, literally it cost like all the money that I had made on this like launch that I was like feeling really not good about anyway because I'd kind of like forced it. And so it was like this real, not only was it a surprise, but it was like then this total like added self-evaluation. Like I'm a complete like failure. I totally like fucked up, you know.
Yeah.
And then to add insult to injury, I had just woken up and like had, found this out and I was like having some tears and like my husband, kind of comes in and I was sort of like lamenting, like sharing to him. And he was really short with me. He was like, let's not start our Sunday morning like this. And like really kind of like walked away from me. So it was just like total insult to injury. Um,
Right. So there's two layers. There's like the self-evaluation of like your own, effort, your own, lack of success. And then there's his reaction to it. That was like a different tone of the conflict. So it's slightly different symptom. Yeah.
Slightly different symptom. Yeah. And so after that, I mean, I really like it was very quick that I had this like limited range of motion. I started like having pain. It was like painful to like sleep on the shoulder at night. Um, yeah, it was, I mean, and I was like feeling it even like during the day. And so it's really taken me a lot of time to move through it. I mean, it's been, in August, it'll be a year. At this point, though, I'm like 90% better. I'm not having any of the, like the periosteum nerve pain is gone. I still do have a little bit of limited range of motion, but it's like really downgraded.
And
Um,
why do you think is that because you like had a practical resolution in your business, or yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I've
you're
had
crushing it again. So it's all
yeah,
good.
basically I've had like two launches recently that have like done really well.
Yeah.
And then also I think that like my perspective on like success and doing really well has also shifted. Does that
Hmm.
make sense? Like I've
Just naturally, or did you like because of all this, you had to consciously kind of work on it?
yeah, not naturally. I mean, like I have been like really consciously working on it, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, before we started the recording. Freya had shared something about, this idea of like, I'm, loving living in, community and like having neighbors. And maybe that's not something that you imagined you would prioritize. It feels that way with my business as well. Like, I don't need to have 500 people sign up for every single launch. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that is not my level of success anymore. Um, my level of success is, bringing in the people who I'm actually going to have really more like deep and meaningful conversations with that are really truly interested in learning what I have to teach. But I'm also like offering longer programs now that I'm super pumped about. And what's happening is that people are coming into the lower offer, classes, but then they're also signing up for the, like the longer program. And it's like,
Hmm.
oh, you know, I just have this different perspective on how I'm feeling in my business and what, success is and just in getting the feedback from the people that are in the class. I'd much rather have 50 people in a class and have people say that was fucking amazing than have
Yeah.
500 people and have no engagement or like feedback.
Yeah. 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 So basically with this symptom, it's like you made the connection, like you could see what it was, and then it was going to work both on, okay, making some shifts in your business, it sounds like, in terms of like actually what you were offering and putting out there, and also in how you were perceiving, looking at it, the values, the things you made it mean about yourself, like working on both those things at once. And that's what's basically created the big shift.
Yeah, and I mean also, like personally, like with my husband too. He and I are very different people. He's like a Mr. Logical landscape architect, like carpenter. He's like math, 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 construct, construct, and I'm not that way. Like I work with the body. I, work in this, energetic field. And so it's just a different it's a different way to be. And oftentimes we have these
Mm.
tiffs, like, but it's beautiful because I feel like he keeps me very like down to earth. And I also then push him to be, more in the moment.
So like resolving the conflict with him, it sounds like, was seeing that he wasn't, from his perception, he wasn't necessarily being mean in that moment.
No, like he
Yeah.
wasn't being mean in that moment. He literally just wanted to have a good day with me.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But I took
Yeah.
it as like, you don't understand me. You're not gonna like support me
Yeah.
in this like
Yeah.
terrible moment. I mean, it really in the
Yeah.
grand scheme of things, like, yeah, in the moment it fucking hurt, because I was
Mhm.
already feeling like such a failure.
Yeah.
It was like that moment of like, oh, well, you really are a failure. Look what you've done, you know.
Yeah. Not only have you ruined your business, you've ruined Sunday, you
That
terrible
really, oh,
woman.
Sunday is gonna be the worst day. Yeah. So he and I have just, been having more like dialogue and conversation and yeah, and I have just started to bring him in a little bit more as far as like asking for his opinion about things. And
Mm.
um you had recommended at the end of our GNM cohort 5, the empowered wife. And
Mm.
I read that and there's some things about it that I was like, oh, take or leave, but I really realized an issue for us because we are different people that I wasn't including him.
Mm.
I wasn't asking for his opinion. And I realized it doesn't necessarily matter if I take his advice or not. You know, like I'm
Yeah.
still allowed to run my business in the way that I want to.
Yeah.
But it was more important to even ask his opinion, you know,
Mm,
what do you think about this situation, like as it's coming up in real time? And we've had just much more connection and dynamic. And I
hmm
think that's actually made because it is my right shoulder, you know, so
hmm
I think it's business, but I also think it's my
mm
relationship with him because I wanted him to hug me in that moment.
mm
I didn't get that, you
hmm
know. But now, yeah, we're having much more connection and dialogue and affection. So,
Cool. Very
thanks,
cool.
Freya.
No, I mean, you did the work on that one.
No, I know, but you know, we need these little
Yeah.
like nudges
Yeah.
for sure. So,
Yeah. Okay,
mhm.
well, do you want to close out with the plantar warts?
Yeah, love to. So the plantar warts were on the bottom, you know, of my left foot, and because I'm a right-handed woman, um, you know, that was more like mother child. And this one was a hard one for me because I had them for probably about a year because I think it was hard for me to actually admit what it meant um, because it made me look like a bad mother.
Which
Um,
we already know from the first story you really care about.
I know, but
I mean,
I'm a
as
cool
every mother
mama.
does, but yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have these moments.
Uh-huh.
But I think I really appreciated the plantar warts because they stuck around for a while too, and so I had to really sit with it. I had to really go in and say it doesn't make me a bad mom that I actually literally want to have more space for my daughter. Like I do not want
Mm,
to be mothering you all the time. I want to like walk away and like do my own thing. So I really had to wrestle with what that meant for me as a
mm.
mother, and that it didn't mean that I was a bad mom. Um,
How did you do that? Give some hot tips to the moms out there with the with the same issue.
with the same issues.
Yeah.
I think that the way that I got around it was when I when I'm without her, like when I get to be, you know, with other moms or by myself, like doing something that's creative, it really fills me up. And so then when I do come back to her, do you know what I mean? I feel more at peace. Like I feel satisfied. I feel seen and heard. You know, like I started going on walks with mom friends, you know, like just there was one mom that we would just like go on walks together. And it was like so great because, you know, we could kind of like bitch about, you know, certain things or we could connect because like she's a midwife, you know, and so we're kind of in the same field. So we could
Mhm.
like talk about work stuff. I think at that time, I just really needed to be connecting with another woman who I just felt really like seen and heard by. Um,
hmm
yeah.
hmm
And
And
so
shit talk the sides of motherhood that are a little challenging.
like literally, you know,
Yeah.
because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like,
Yeah.
you know, many days and nights and moments, like it's really fucking hard. And so I
Yeah.
think to be able to
Yeah. I
have
mean,
those
I do
moments.
see a pretty consistent theme for motherhood related symptoms. I mean, it can come in many varieties in this situation. It sounds like plantar warts, but
Mm-hmm.
the because every conflict comes with this private thing, right? That we don't want to share, and it's um yeah, there's a lot of like shame or embarrassment or like I shouldn't feel this way about my kid. Like I love them, but I also like get away from me, like and it's just like the reality is, I mean, every single mother has had that feeling. I mean,
Like,
unless you're a saint.
way. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
really think like every single mother has that at some point.
Mhm.
And I really appreciate what you say, you know, that a lot of times the things that come up in our symptoms, it's really, you know, kind of the things that are unbecoming, you
Yeah.
know, of us. but it's so normal, that we are not perfect and that it's absolutely important to as mothers to just say, this is what I want and this is what I need. And maybe I don't get it quite as much as I'd like to, but even having these
Right.
little, even like an hour walk, like once a week, that was enough for me to like really.
Right. So practically giving yourself more space and then purposefully like having the conversations where you're breaking your isolation about the issue in motherhood.
Correct.
This and then the warts started to go away.
Yeah, they did. And they actually really started to go away pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Once
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. Well, that really
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
It's all just so real. Like even the first story is like what mother hasn't like at least at one point looked at like another parenting out on the street or whatever and being like, oh well, at least that's not me, like at least like oh we're doing better than that. Yeah, like it's so human and it's so
Yeah.
like I don't know, I love that so much about GM. It's just it's it's made me fall in love with people in a totally
Yeah.
new way. I think just we're
Yeah.
just so funny.
Are, and it just, I feel like G&M really gives us just permission to be fully human,
Yeah,
and I love that too. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
it's funny that you say that because there have been moments, I kind of love when someone else's child is like having a meltdown in public, because it's like, yes, like I'm not the only one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Because it's funny, like, right, even the resolution in this case was, like you say, it's unbecoming. It's like, who wants to admit that actually the good thing, like what your symptom, the hemorrhoid, going back to the very first story, was showing you was the good thing actually was the misbehavior of the other kids and the mom, being super controlling, that actually like
Mhm.
gave you relief of your own like judgment of yourself as a mother.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yes, no, like no wonder sometimes it can be challenging in the beginning to find things because it's like, oh no, not that, not looking there, not admitting these things.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is hard to admit them sometimes. And and again, I think I needed to have the plantar warts for an extended amount of time so that I could
Mhm.
finally kind of get to this, thing that I didn't really want to admit about myself.
Mm.
You know,
Mhm.
and I think it's been the same with the frozen shoulder. And I think the other thing that I just wanted to say about the frozen shoulder too is that I'm so thankful for GNM because I think if I hadn't had that framework, because it has been such an extended amount of time, people have been like, you need to go get an MRI, you need to get a cortisone shot, like, you need to do all these things. And it's like, no, I actually don't, you know,
Mm.
but I think it gave me the like consistency or like maybe the trust to really stick with the process. Cause there was a time where I was like really uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and like I would be in pain. And so I just feel thankful to like have that framework because I feel like it really helped me to kind of stick with it. And like I
Mhm.
feel confident that I will have a full resolution and that I don't. Do you know what I mean? Because I think sometimes people will have this like, and I don't know if it's like subconscious, will it happen once, so it could happen again.
Mhm.
Even if it does happen again, I've made it through this. I've learned
Yeah.
so much. Do you know what I mean? It like really gives me this sort of sense of like freedom and I don't have to be fearful.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that is just like priceless.
Yeah. And maybe just if you were interested in speaking to the different quality of that freedom as opposed to like, okay, you've been in the alternative health world for a long time. You're a trained acupuncturist, right? Like you're a body worker. You're not like new to thinking about the body in a way that's different from conventional medicine. And still, it sounds like there was a different tonality to the piece that GNM has given to you. And like why? What is that for you?
Right, 100%. And I mean, in Chinese medicine school, people really poo-pooed a lot on Western medicine. And because they'd had a lot of bad experiences. But I mean, I think that there's still this underlying theme of like fear. Like they're afraid of like what Western medicine is going to cut them up or like do all these
Mm.
things. But I think that there's also still this like thread of fear, even in Chinese medicine of like, well, if you don't do qigong and you don't take the herbs and like you're not doing, your gua sha, like shit's gonna hit the fan,
Yeah.
like you got to do all the things to be like good or healthy or well.
Hmm.
So unfortunately, I still think that there's sort of this thread and through line that like there's all this stuff that's out there that's going to get you, but if you take your Chinese medicine herbs and you do all the right things, then maybe you'll be okay.
Yeah. Has
Um,
your relationship then to those things changed?
mhm. Yeah, I think so. And I feel more of like almost like the power and the efficacy of Chinese medicine, but I also feel that when I can speak in the framework of GNM, even though I don't necessarily always say to my clients, like I'm giving you GNM principles, I think because I've had these very concrete, real life experiences with GNM, and because I don't sit in that fear space
Yeah.
anymore,
Yeah.
I mean, that translates for people,
Totally. Yeah.
because
Yeah,
I,
you're like the one person probably for a lot of people, and the same with me or whoever, even if you're just like a random mom at the park who's like having a conversation with another mom, you might be the one person who like hears about a symptom and doesn't tense, like doesn't get like, oh no, and is actually just like just embodying a just completely different way to
totally.
respond.
Yeah, and I mean, I've even had women say to me, I've never had anybody get excited or curious about my
Yeah.
like, yeah, like I think that's
Uh-huh.
why I love because I loved your course, like the Sherlock Your Symptoms, because there is that like real nerdy part of me that is like, ooh, 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 like I
Yeah.
want to understand. Like I'm so fascinated by the beauty of the body and how it like gives us these
Yeah.
perfectly delivered, perfectly timed, like symptoms if we will only, have that curiosity
Yeah.
or sort of take
Yeah.
the time to explore. I think like
Yeah.
one other thing that I really wanted to say too that I just so appreciate about you too is that I think I was getting a little psycho about like trying to figure out like these symptoms, with my shoulder again because it was like an extended amount of time. I was like uncomfortable. And one thing that you really said in, Sherlock Your Symptoms was like don't get too like hyper focused.
Mm.
It's like I think I was creating this other self-evaluation because I like wasn't figuring it out.
Yeah.
So finding that balance of like getting curious, like getting excited, but like there was an aspect too of just being like, I trust that I'm going to figure this out in the correct timeline for me.
Yeah.
Like I had to get to that point, and I think taking your Sherlock course really helped me to be like, oh, I don't have to figure this out like right now, and to just
Yeah.
really trust that process.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and having had a couple of experiences for you probably made that easier. Like I think about my early days, like as doing one-on-one like work with other people
mm.
and feeling that like, okay, I really, really got to figure this out. Okay, like, and like,
Yeah.
okay, got to do this right. And like if we don't get it on the first go, that means something. Whereas now I think I'm like, I know there's an answer. Like, and I don't know that I can get this for you on one call or two or whatever, but like, I know there's an answer. And I know if we ask enough questions, we'll just get there.
We'll get
And I
there.
don't know if it's the first question or it's like 250. Like, I have no idea. But I'm just like so much more like chill in myself because I'm like, it's there somewhere, and it's okay that I look stupid asking like the 300 questions before I get to the right one. It doesn't matter because
Mm.
eventually we'll get there. Well, thank you so much. Super
Yeah.
fun stories.
Yeah. I've loved it.